Hello, I'm Captain Eric Scott with the Los Angeles City Fire Department.
Today we're asking, what can you do to ensure you and your family are prepared for wildfire?
So I'm excited to say that we've assembled a team of experts to answer that question today. So it includes Sergeant Eric Lee from the Los Angeles Police Department, Jennifer Lazo from Emergency Management Department, and David Barrett from MySafeLA. As most people know, the fire department is responsible for fighting the wildfire and protecting lives and property. Now, our friends at LAPD are the active partner relative to evacuations and security both inside and on the perimeter of the fire zone. In the Emergency Management Department, they provide notification for people who may live in harm's way, and they ramp up the city's Emergency Operations Center, which assists with the remote management of all aspects of a major disaster. And MySafeLA's role is to instruct people about being ready before a fire occurs, what to do in the event they're in a fire, and how to start the recovery process after the fire has been extinguished. So thank you all for being here today.
Thank you.
So we're going to dig right in. Now, first off, when it comes to wildfire prevention, there's three basic keys to success that are really the foundation, and that is thoroughly familiarizing yourself with the Ready, Set, Go program. That's proven. The second is to protect your property, and that's by performing proper brush clearance. It gives us the defensible space to do our job. And third is to protect your house from flying embers that might land on it, and we call that home hardening. So for more information about those three important topics, we really encourage people to visit LAFD.org/wildfire. But to begin with, we'll start with you, Sergeant Lee. What in general are LAPD's concerns regarding wildfire preparation?
Yeah, thank you. So some of our concerns are, first of all, is neighbors. Really what we need to do is get to know our neighbors. We need to know which ones might need some extra help in preparing. We need to make sure we know the names of them and they know your names, their information, so that we can make sure that we are ready as a community to evacuate when that time comes. Another issue is making sure you have a go kit. And what I mean by that is you're prepared. You've got the essentials that you need. Now, that does not include your home and everything in it, because those things are all replaceable. So what we want to focus on are the people, the community members, right? Those are the folks that are irreplaceable, your loved ones. So we need to focus on those and getting out of harm's way. And finally, when the evacuation time comes, we've got to make sure that we go and we leave when that order comes out. That being said, there's one more thing I'd like to talk about, and that is if the warning comes out, red flag, that we need to not have street parking. We all need to focus and make sure our vehicles are off the roadways. And what I mean by that is that if people are parked on some of the streets that are tight in our community, it might be just barely enough for a small black and white to get by, but when it comes to the apparatus of the fire department, they're really going to struggle to get by those parked cars, and that could exacerbate the fire issue.
Yeah, those are excellent points. Knowing your neighbors, having your go kit, and certainly we do have a lot of hairpin turns and natural choke points and narrow roads in some of the areas that are next to wildfire. So for those who want to get more information about that or to sign up for alerts to actually be notified when there are the red flag no parking restrictions, you could go to LAFD.org/red flag. So thank you, excellent points. And Jennifer, we'll turn it to you for a minute with the Emergency Management Department. Now, you play a very vital role in the preparation of wildfires. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the role of the EMD and also particular to alerting?
Yeah, so the Emergency Management Department makes sure that the city is ready to send emergency alerts in as many ways as possible the second that a fire is dangerous. And so the Notify LA system is what we use to let everyone know what's going on. That system has a lot of elements. So if you go in, sign up, and register yourself in the system, you can actually choose the addresses you care most about. It might be your home, it might be where your kids go to school, or where a parent is getting care. You can put all of those places into the system, along with which ways you want to be contacted. A cell phone, a TTY or TDD device, text messages, landline, VoIP phone, email. All of those systems are available to you. So if you go to notifyla.org and sign up, you can get alerts specifically for those areas you care about. There's another really important aspect to that emergency alerting system, and it's wireless emergency alerts. This is a federal national program that allows your cell phone to get an alert based on its active location in the moment the alert is sent. So if you are in a fire zone, maybe you're going on a hike in the hills, maybe you're enjoying a concert and a fire breaks out, we can actually draw a shape around that area that needs to be notified and send a message to everyone's phones. A lot of folks have gotten those before as an amber alert or a silver alert. We use that same system. And so one thing that we ask everybody to do is check your phone settings and make sure that you're opted in to receiving those public safety and severe incident alerts, that you haven't changed the phone settings, because we really need to get those in the exact moment in which we send them. And the good news is the city of LA really does have one of the most robust alerting systems. It's not just the emergency management department. We partner closely with the fire department and the police department and back each other up on sending those alerts. We've got the language pre-written. We just plug in the area that's at risk, and we can get those alerts out really rapidly to let people know what's going on. One thing I'll add is we will send a couple of kinds of alerts during a wildfire. So the first one is just going to be what we lovingly call the shake and shout. Wake up, there's something happening, and we want you to know about it. We want you to start preparing. We're going to send that as soon as we know that a fire could be threatening structures or a large area. Then we'll send an evacuation warning if we need people to be prepared to evacuate, and an evacuation order if we need them to evacuate now. So that evacuation warning, if it's going to take you longer to get out, if you maybe have pets or somebody who needs special technology to be able to leave their home, leave then, get out then. But for everybody, when you get that evacuation order, as Sergeant Lee mentioned, we really need you to hit the road and get out of the way. That will let the firefighters, the police officers protect your property, protect your home without having to worry about you. So.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was really some great information about Notify LA. I like, too, that you brought up the fact that you could kind of reduce signal to noise ratio and make sure you're getting signal, not too much noise, by saying the geographic areas that actually matter to you, and also the way that you receive them can be specific via text or email. And I also know that when an emergency breaks out, we certainly have very close coordination, and we appreciate all that you do in notifying people.
It's our pleasure. The key thing is make sure you get notifications in a lot of different ways. You don't want to rely on any one source to get those messages.
Excellent point. The more the merrier, especially
Exactly.
when it comes to life-saving information. So it's not just about individually being prepared, but it's also important to be prepared collectively as a community. And so that's where David Barrett from MySafeLA comes in. Can you talk a little bit about your neighborhood education?
Sure. You've been talking about the collaboration in a response model. So fire, police, EMD, Red Cross, other people who would participate when there's an incident and people have to respond to that. Our job is to help people understand what their role collectively, not just their home, but their neighbors, their homeowners association, even a neighborhood council, what their role is long before anything would occur. So one of the things that we are really focused on is helping a homeowners association organize themselves to have a consistent, ongoing presence with their homeowners, whether it's a voluntary association or a membership association, to know what's happening on a monthly or at least bi-monthly basis. Here, we have so many tools, we need people to be able to take advantage of them. It's true with earthquakes, too, right? So when we have an earthquake here, everyone freaks out and says, okay, I'm going to get all of these different kinds of things to protect my family and home, and they think about that very seriously for about 3 weeks. So we have the same kind of a thing going on relative to wildfire. So we're trying to kind of poke the bear, so to speak. We're trying to get them to say, oh, I should do something about this. And there's a couple of triggers that get them to respond other than an actual fire. When we explain, hey, if your home can't burn, if there isn't anything to ignite, then it's not likely to burn. The same thing is true of your property. If you've It doesn't mean you have to have a landscape that is barren like the moon. It means that you have to be thoughtful about it from the ground up 6 feet, not to have any kind of dangling ornamental vegetation, to not have branches touching the roof of your house, to make sure your gutters are clear. These things don't cost a lot of money. Maybe if you have a gardener or if you're out there on your own with your family doing your own yard clearance, you don't have to put a Class A roof on your home unless you want to, or unless you feel that it's very necessary. But you do need to take some basic steps. And when we explain that if you do this, you're not likely to lose your home, because FEMA says 50% chance of survival if you harden your home properly. If you add defensible space, 75% chance that you can reduce the chance. You know, a wildfire is kind of lazy. It looks for the easiest thing that it can attach itself to and burn. If there's nothing there that's easy for it to attach itself to, what does it do? It goes right on by.
When it comes to brush clearance too, that really helps us out on the fire department side. So we'll give just the basics on that because we get a ton of questions. But it's taking the weeds and the grass and bringing it to 3 inches. And it's all those ground fuels we're really worried about, trimming the bottom third of a bush, the bottom 6 feet of a tree. And for your roof line, like you mentioned, very important. That's where all those embers get in, and we see some houses burn from the top down. So if you're 5 foot tall and you're walking the perimeter of your roof, nothing should hit you in the head.
And one of the things that you just brought up, which is important as well, is if people properly defend their property, create defensible space, that also gives firefighters a place to operate. If there's no place for them to actually get their hose lines in and set themselves up to defend that property, then the property is at greater risk simply because of the lack of access.
Yeah, excellent points. Thank you for that. So now let's discuss what happens when a wildfire breaks out in Los Angeles and it's actually headed in the direction of your home. Now, on a typical topography-driven wildfire, we, the fire department, are going to hit it hard and fast. We're going to kind of say anchor, flank, and pinch to make it simple. We're going to anchor that fire. We're going to make sure the base of it is completely extinguished. We're going to flank it by sending teams of firefighters with progressive hose lays on the sides and try to kind of pinch it together to keep it small, and then use our aircraft to take the heat out of the head of the wildfire. But now, if you get a wind-driven fire, that is way more concerning for us. And or if flames are actually getting close to your home, and that's when we're going to start to discuss evacuation. And that's where Sergeant Lee comes in. And LAPD is really on our side because we will perhaps state the order, but you're going to enact that order and follow through. So what are some key things that people need to do to be responsible and responsive in the event of an evacuation?
Thank you. So one of the things is that when a brush fire or a fire is starting up, knowledge is power. And we really need the community members to tune in, know what's going on in the area, be aware of what's going on. And when a mandatory evacuation is declared, that is your time to move. That's not your time to pack up. The pack up time was when you were first made aware of it and knowing that it might come your direction. But once the fire department puts out that it's a mandatory evacuation area, that really is your time to get up and move and get your loved ones to safety. And don't forget about our furry friends. They need to come with us. And also large animals. So out in the valley especially, we've had issues over the years of making sure that we think about the large animal evacuations, the equine that we need to get out of the area, and the time that it takes to do that. So we need to think about that ahead of time and not wait till the last minute. One of the last things also is for the communities that we serve, especially those who might need some extra time in getting out, those with disabilities or access functional needs. Right. We need to make sure that those folks are ready to go. They very especially need to make sure that they're tuning in, they are aware, because if it takes extra time for them to evacuate, we want to make sure they have that time and they're able to get out and into a safe area.
Yeah, appreciate that. And certainly back about going, we always remind people too, you don't have to wait till we formally tell you to go. If there's a wildfire threatening your neighborhood or community, we encourage people to get out well ahead of that wildfire. And also excellent points about animal shelters. And the actual locations will be determined and they go out on those alerts. So we really want people to get those alerts so you know ahead of time where the evacuation shelters are set up for large animals, small animals as well as people if they need to go to them. So thank you for that, as well as the ADA compliance.
Right.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So now, Jennifer, we're going to turn it back over to you. You know, during a wildfire or really any significant natural disaster, how is the Emergency Operations Center activated, and what functions does that EOC perform?
So the fire department, the police department, and the mayor's office can all request the activation of the Emergency Operations Center when an incident gets beyond the scope of any one department's normal emergency response functions. And that has happened for everything from the COVID pandemic to even when we have a large special event like the Super Bowl or the LA Marathon, because this becomes the brain of the city, a place where all of the departments can come together, coordinate with each other, make sure they have the resources they need, and that they're communicating really freely about the current information.
Yeah, thank you for that. Good points. And David, we're going to turn it back over to you for a minute. Now, we know that LA has wildfires all year round now, and weather plays such a critical role in how we fight them and how people need to be prepared. So how are you teaching participants in the Wildfire Resilience Alliance about weather and how it would impact wildfires in them?
So the first step is probably to define the Wildfire Resilience Alliance. So that's a partnership between MySafeLA and the Los Angeles City Fire Department, and it's designed to create multiple layers of activity that trains, creates awareness, and also stipulates how things are changing, what's going on. And weather, of course, is one of the most important things that is changing. This is becoming more and more dramatic as we go along. Climate is changing. The source of it is another conversation. But the fact is it is changing. And so we have longer periods of heat. When we have these wonderful rainy seasons, everyone was so excited. So, oh, the hillsides are beautiful and everything looks great and there's a lot of moisture around. All I see is fuel, right? Because all of this stuff is growing and becomes fuel. And what people may not recognize is because of how our canyons are aligned, either with the sun from the east or from the west, that in or out of alignment on those hillsides can dry out vegetation in simply a matter of moments. So understanding not only your property, not only your building, but also what's happening with nature. It's a huge part of it. We're building a community wildfire protection plan for the city of Los Angeles. There are some that are around. So the Santa Monica Conservancy has one, LA County has one, but they stop at the city's border, right? So the hazard plan that EMD is developing, the CWPP that we're building, those kinds of things need to interact with each other and need to be available to everyone. It's a community plan. It's not a fire plan per se or a police plan. Everyone's involved, but it's really for the community to be able to say, I'm interested and I want to know what's going on and why it's going on. I think the most significant things to share about weather is that it's dramatically different than it was even 5 or 10 years ago. And we need to think about that. When it's raining, we think, or when it's cloudy and it might rain, we think about what are those things? I need to have a raincoat, I need to have an umbrella. We want people to think about kind of the my 3 things if there's wildfire weather. So if the moisture level is very low, if the temperature, it could even be cool, but typically it's going to be hot. And if it's blowing wind, what are those things? Turn your car around so that it's facing out of your driveway. Make sure it has more than half a tank of gas. Think about those things that you would do. And if you don't need to do them, well, it's repetitive work. It's like a drill. And as that happens more and more, you'll become more comfortable with being able to take action when something really does take place.
Yeah, very excellent points about really keeping cognizant of the weather, what it's doing, and how that can affect disasters. And you brought up the recent rain, and yeah, we do see that increase in grass crop, and that we're seeing that kind of slightly delay some of our wildfires. But like you mentioned, it's fuel, and that's a light, flashy fuel, very susceptible to a spark, and soon enough it's going to be all cured and dried, and then we're going to see that. And the southwest-facing aspects is really where it's even more dry. You can look; it's way more sparse and thin branches compared to the other side, the northeast. But yeah, very, very good points that you bring up. A practical application, we appreciate that. It's really when you get the increased temperatures, the low relative humidity, and the wind. The wind is our main concern. We've reviewed a lot of information here today, and we want to make sure that you and the public have access to all of it. So if you need additional information, please visit these important sites. It's lafd.org/wildfire, lapdonline.org, emergency.lacity.gov, and MySafeLA.org. So again, thank you all for being here. We really appreciate your input as subject matter experts, and you've really shared some potentially life-saving information. And together, we are one team. And we really want Angelenos to be part of our team. That's why we're sincerely asking you to please heed these warnings and be prepared. Thank you all.
Thank you.